Hare Krishna. Amagyanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Hare Krishna. So, as I said yesterday, we will discuss about that question, difference of the relation in this world and spiritual world, material world. But for that, we need to understand what is the real cause. So, I was explaining about fear. So, we'll just try to understand. Fear as actually is Krishna's main enemy. This is the first thing we need to know. Who is the greatest enemy of Krishna is fear. Because Krishna is love, God is love, and we need to gain fearlessness in love for Krishna. But what stops? The attachments give rise to fear, which is the enemy of Krishna. And who is that fear? Krishna is the most important enemy of Krishna. Sorry, Kamsa. And Kamsa is always afraid. And Kamsa is the personification of fear. And because of Kamsa, he was always trying to kill Krishna. And if you see, Kamsa was sending, and Kamsa is manifesting all other anarthas. Kamsa was the fear, you want to kill. And then if you see, Kamsa is sending all the demons, one after another, one after another. So all the anarthas or unwanted things that are coming in us are because of that fear only. So we'll discuss that point also. So when a person falls into a vicious cycle of fear, it is very difficult and scary to step on the spiritual path. What happens is, fear is enemy of Krishna because I am attached to matter, or I am attached to certain things, certain people. I understand that if I go to Krishna, then I will need to get rid of these material attachments, which is very scary. So the cycle is a vicious cycle. I want to get rid of fear. To get rid of fear, I need to embark on spiritual path. But to go to spiritual path is very scary because I have to get rid of my attachments. So fear makes me out of spiritual path. Fear prevents me from approaching Krishna. This is actually the problem. So fear eats me completely. The first step that I take, they are filled with fear. Sometimes people fall. So they dead loop of fear on spiritual path. And this is actually what happened to Arjuna. Arjuna gave all explanation why he should not fight. And why I don't need spiritual life. How this battle will be cause of my attachments and everything is lost. So this is actually what is happening on our mind constantly. We constantly try to hide behind something because of fear only. So we see the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita is very important because it is giving the problem statement. What is the problem? That is fear only. Dhritarashtra is afraid, he is asking Sanjaya. Duryodhana is fearful, he is going to Dronacharya. And Arjuna also became fearful after seeing. And interestingly, Duryodhana remained where he was, but Arjuna could conquer fear. What is the reason? We have to see. So the only one emotion that is actually transformed into all, the emotion of fear. So person reacts differently. This fear, everybody reacts differently depending on what kind of person he is. Fear is there. Arjuna reacted in one way, Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana, everybody reacted in different. So there is not a single person who would not have obstacles on spiritual path. And if person does not know that he has problem, that is the biggest problem. And we are here, and that is the proof that we have problem. Somebody is in the material world, that is the proof. And they will be there for quite some time, but a person can act either wrong or right, he has to face the problems. So here one interesting thing is, Arjuna said, I surrender. But he says immediately, I will not fight. That means I will do whatever I want. Krishna, I surrender to you, but I am going to do whatever I want. I am not going to do what you say. That was initial surrender of Arjuna. But in the end, he says, Karashye Vachanam Tava. I will do whatever you say. That is where we need to come. So initial surrender is, I want to do whatever I want. Krishna, I am surrendering. And even when we pray also, that intensity we cannot pray. We are fearful. If I seriously pray, Krishna may do something and I may not like. So that Krishna also understands. He also does not do something. But somehow he tries to help us, try to make us right path. But still we are holding on to our attachments. And it's very painful, very difficult. and we say I'm surrendered Krishna, but still in the heart we know, no, I don't want to do it. So Krishna knows. That's why we need that enlightenment. So when Arjuna said I surrendered, again Krishna says in the end you surrender. That time Arjuna says yes, Karishye Vachanam, I'll do whatever you say. That is what surrender is needed. So Prabhupada, one devotee said, Prabhupada, spiritual life is difficult. Prabhupada said, yes, spiritual life is difficult, but material life is hopeless. So first, because initially there is enthusiasm. So there is enthusiasm. Like Arjuna is also very enthusiastic. Krishna, come on, I will do. You take my chariot in between the two armies. I will see who came, and I am going to do it. And then Krishna says, okay, come on, Arjuna, I will show you. He was having full, extraordinary confidence, strength, and all. But as soon as he saw the army, he says, Krishna, I am not going to fight. This is actually what happens. We feel on our strength, I can do it. Why they are doing, why I cannot do it? We cannot do it. It's only Krishna's mercy we can do it. So spiritual life is always a declaration of war. But what happens? Fear paralyzes us. Fear is actually that we will lose our attachments. And people hide behind, so this fanatism, fear of fanatism is also fear, and this is, people are so much fanatic, and that is also cause of fear only. And there is lack of complete faith. So, and Arjuna is explaining, so everything is fine with me, I am very compassionate, I am so kind, I am so good. So this is, but it is not actually like that. He is fearful, and he is hiding behind his fear. That is the main point. And it is said that there is one saying that there is no brave warrior than a frightened Jew. That means to hide his fear, he will do so many things. They can go to so much extent. So now we'll just understand how this fear is manifested. So this is one of the most important shloka of Bhagavatam. Bhayam didyad abhinivesha tasya ishadape tasya viparyosme. I'll just explain it. We'll take very short because we have to cover our syllabus, but I promise to take on fear. So I'm just giving, of course, tomorrow also I'll continue. There is so much to understand in this point, and solution part also I will tell, but we'll just discuss the problem part today. So the soul turns away from God, and the soul begins to ignore God. So this is actually the main problem. The first step, the first moment that leads to all problems is we are experiencing is indifference to God or ignoring God. So this is the greatest. So even if you see the chanting the holy name, what is the biggest offense is to be inattentive, because of inattention all other offenses are coming. So inattention is actually because of pride. I neglect somebody. So greatest insult you can do somebody is not fighting or shouting against him. You neglect him, that is the greatest insult. So if somebody looks deep in heart, we will find that we do not care. So this tendency is there, I don't care. So the biggest insult is don't notice. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur says atheism is very prominent. It's a traditional religion in the material world. So there is one joke. The phone rings, Lord's phone ring, and he knows who is calling, and he knows for what he is calling. Somebody is praying for him. So God turns to his secretary angel and says, you tell him I am not there. What does it mean? Like, people go to Lord when they need something, when they feel bad. This is actually ingratitude. They are not understanding everything they are getting from Lord only. So this ignoring God or some kind of deep indifference to him is the first thing that is made mistake. And because of which what happens? The memory is lost. I don't want him. The Lord says, okay, fine with me. If you want to forget me, I am fine with you. So this material world is created to hide Lord, not to show him. That we have discussed many times. This material world is shown to hide God because we don't want to see him. If we see him, we cannot enjoy. I want to enjoy means I should close the curtain of altar and I can do something nonsense. So if I don't want to see, Lord says, okay, fine with me. And because asmriti, then what happens? Viparya. The consciousness is rotates incorrectly. So it is in a wrong place. That means what? We start identifying with the matter. So at certain stage in which I forget about God and think, oh, I am the body. I need to work with the body and people related to body, my wife, my children, my husband, my all these things. I should be very serious about it. So if I am matter, then I focus everything on matter. So matter is not the main thing. Where the problem comes. But I like so matter is also manifestation of God, but it is secondary manifestation. But I feel, yeah, but it is also Lord only. No, let me focus. Are you are focusing on secondary aspect of Lord. The primary aspect is a Lord person. Even though this is also Lord, the matter, but it is secondary thing. We are focusing on secondary things, some trivial things, because Krishna himself is saying, Yadyat vibhuti matsarpam. I am focusing on the vibhutis of the Lord. But that is a problem. Because we get absorbed in matter. What is the main problem if we are get absorbed in matter? Is uh, because the fear appears. Why the fear appears? Because matter is it is unstable. It is constantly changing. Not only people's body, people's mind, the situations, everything change. That's why we see small children when they are very small, they so much love the parents. When they grow, you don't find, because not only body change, the mind also change for the children. So everything change because it is constantly changing. It moves all the time. It changes all the time. Then fear covers us because we are attached to certain situations, certain people, certain things, certain name, everything. And that because we are focusing on something which is temporary, the secondary manifestation of God, which is always changing, it is definitely going to be fearful. So at some point, I don't care whether God or not, and he helped me to completely forget about him. But the price is very expensive. What is that? Fear. So this fear, it manifests. It is there in all living entity. It manifests in various forms. So according to psychology, the one single form is everything is all problems is fear only. So it manifests as greed, because when Krishna leaves the heart, it is vacuum, and then you have to fill the vacuum with so many other things which are actually cannot replace Krishna only. We have so many endless things they are trying to give: material relationship, material wealth, status, fame, honor, and something that is valued in this world. But the only problem is that only Krishna himself can fill that vacuum, nothing. And then various types of pleasures. So greed and lust and pleasures, TV, wine, and all these things. And then envy and jealousy is because I'm afraid of losing my position. So this is also insecurity. All these things because of fear only. So this is the problem. The problem is of fear. So this is actually the first problem, first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So Dhritarashtra means who is attached. Sanjaya means who came victor. Sanjaya. Jaya means he got conquered. He defeated the inferior qualities: fear, greed, affection. Sanjaya. And material attachments give rise to fear. And Dhritarashtra. This is an important point. Dhritarashtra is a blind person, but with so much attachment and trying to somehow cope up with his fear. And then he's asking question. So what happens? This attachment breeds fear. Fear leads to cruelty and violence. And beginning of Bhagavad Gita is cruelty, violence, but the essence is how to bring our mind to peace and tranquility. So now this fellow blind person is experiencing fear because of this is mental problem. But what he is doing, he is weak and cowardly, but at the same time he wants war and he wants people to die. How much cruel the Dhritarashtra is. This is actually manifestation of fear only. So the solution is love. So the spiritual world, it is because love, there is no fear. That's why there is no exploitation. But in the material world, because there is fear, that's why there is exploitation. So that is the answer for this question. We'll continue it uh, tomorrow, the second part. There is some more things to discuss. Any questions still now on this? We'll go ahead. Nothing clear. Thank you. So we will, there is no questions on that topic, then we'll go ahead. So you're all clear with what is the cause of fear and how fear is manifesting. So Kamsa is producing so many demons in our heart because the fear is there. So Krishna can kill Kamsa. He can kill the fear. Bhajahure mana Srinandanandana Abhaya Charanarandre. Of course, I have some more things to share. Tomorrow I will discuss. This notes I will share today, part 1. So now we'll come back to the discussion between Parikshit Maharaj and Dharma. So Parikshit Maharaj is telling, O chaste one, the king's good name, duration of life, and good birth vanishes when all kinds of living beings are terrified by miscreants in his kingdom. It is certainly the prime duty of king to subdue first the suffering of those who suffer. Therefore, I must kill this most wretched man because he is violent against other living. Actually, Prabhupada purports have very, very important points. So we should pay attention because Prabhupada is also sharing very great wisdom, which is very, very helpful for us. Prabhupada is telling when there is some disturbance caused by wild animals in a village or a town, the police or other take action to kill them. Similarly, it is duty of the government to kill at once bad social elements such as thieves, dacoits, and murderers. The same punishment is also due to animal killers because the animals of the state are also praja. Praja means one who has taken birth in the state, and this includes both men and animals. Any living being who takes birth in a state has the prime right to live under the protection of the king. The jungle animals are also subject to the king and they also have a right to live. So, what to speak of domestic animals like cows and pigs? So, Prabhupada is telling this is the first point. Any living being, if this is nice, any living being, if he is terrified, if he terrifies other living, is a most wretched subject, and the king should at once kill such a disturbing animals. As a wild animal is killed when it creates disturbance, similarly, any man who unnecessarily kills or terrifies the jungle animals or other animals must be punished at once. By the law of the Supreme Lord, all living beings, in whatever shape they may be, are the sons of the Lord, and no one has any right to kill another animal unless it is so ordered by the courts of natural law. So this is important. So there should be punishment if somebody is killing animals also. The tiger can kill a lower animal for his sustenance, but a man cannot kill an animal for his sustenance. This is the law of God, who has created the law that a living being subsists by eating other animals. So now people may argue, "Arey, Vishwamitra Muni also ate. He also ate non-veg. He also actually he eats dog meat. So he goes to the house of a Chandala. That time there was a drought for 12 years. He goes to the house of Chandala and then he says, "Give me some food." That time nothing was there. He says, "Some dog meat is there." He said, "Give me." And he says, "Are you are Vishwamitra Muni? How can you eat dog meat?" And that too in my house. Vishwamitra Muni says, "My name is Vishwamitra. I am, I am, I can do something good for the society. I am Mitra means he's a friend. He's a well-wisher. He's a good. So I can do something good for the society, but I should live for it. So by doing it, I can live, and also I can do some prayaschitta so that I can be free from this sin. So if I have that power to digest it, not only digest the food, digest to the karmic reaction also which you get from it. People don't have that power now. They can only digest. They are eating non-veg. They don't have the power to digest the reaction from it, and they are going to get very bad reaction like that. The Ishopan is direct that one should live by the direction of the Lord and not at one's sweet will. A man can subsist on varieties of grains, fruits, and milk ordained by the God, and there is no need of animal food save and except in particular cases. The illusion king or executive head, even though sometimes advertised as a great philosopher and learned scholar, will allow slaughterhouses in the state without knowing that torturing poor animals clears the way to hell for such a foolish king or executive head. The executive head must always be alert to the safety of praja, both man and animals, and inquire whether a particular living being is harassed at any place by another living being. The harassing living being must at once be caught and put to death, as shown by Maharaj Parikshit. So directly, capital punishment. The people's government or government by the people should not allow killing of innocent animals by sweet will of foolish government. They must know the code of God as mentioned in the revealed scriptures. Maharaj Parikshit's code here that according to the code of God, the irresponsible king or state executive jeopardizes his good name, duration of life, power, and strength. Ultimately, his progressive march towards a better life and salvation after the death. Such foolish men do not even believe in the existence of next life. While commenting on this particular verse, so Prabhupada is telling the present scenario. We have in our presence the statement of a great modern politician who have recently died and left his will, which discloses his poor fund of knowledge of the codes of God mentioned by Maharaj Parikshit. The politician was so ignorant of codes of God that he writes, "I do not believe in any such cremations. I do want to submit it to them even as a matter of form would be a hypocrisy and an attempt to delude ourselves and others. I have no religious sentiments in this matter. So poor fellow, at least after death also he could not get peace, because anyway he is fearful because he is already absorbed in matter. And now if he is not doing any last rituals, because this last rituals may help the living entity to attain peace after that. No, he will not get that also because of his foolishness. This is very bad. At least any religious, no, any religious what is a movement, they have this last rites, because that will help a person be little peaceful. Contrasting the statements of a great politician in modern age with those of Maharaj Parikshit, we find a vast difference. Maharaj Parikshit was pious according to the scriptural code, whereas a modern politician goes by his personal belief and sentiments. Any great man of the material world is, after all, a conditioned soul. He is bound by his hands and feet by the rose of material nature, and still the foolish conditioned soul thinks of himself as free to act by his whimsical sentiments. The conclusion is that in the time of Maharaj Parikshit, people were happy and the animals were given proper protection because the executive head was not whimsical or ignorant of God's law. Foolish, faithless creatures try to avoid the existence of God and proclaim themselves secular at the cost of valuable human life. The human life is especially meant for knowing the signs of God, but foolish creatures, especially in this age of Kali, instead of knowing God scientifically, make propaganda against religious belief as well as the existence of God, even though they are always bound by the laws of God by the symptoms of birth, death, old age, and disease. So, this is the problem. So, they themselves are not doing and they are misguiding others also. So they themselves live in fear because bhayam ditya abhinivesha. They are forgetting God, they are fearful. And their fear they cover up with so many other, all these alternatives which we discussed. No, material assets and material relationship and name, fame, this, all these things are actually a covering of their fear only. And they don't want that Lord should be there. And then they propagate that. Lord says, okay, fine with me, you want, you don't want. And whatever they experience, they go through, that actually fortifies their understanding. Oh, I said no God. See, this is what it happened. No floods came. If God is there, why floods will come? If God is there, why there is earthquake? If God is there, why there is current? If God is, so they always prove that there is no God, and it whatever incident they go through, it fortifies only. And then Parikshit Maharaj, since Parikshit Maharaj, repeatedly addressed and questioned the bull thus, O son of Surabhi, who has cut off your three legs? In the state of kings who are obedient to the laws of the Supreme Personality of God Krishna, there is no one as unhappy as you. So then he says, the kings are executive heads of all states must know the codes of Lord Krishna, generally Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and must act accordingly in order to fulfill the mission of human life, which is to make an end to all miseries of mental conditions. One who knows the code of Lord Krishna can achieve his end without any difficulty. In the Bhagavad Gita, we can understand the code of gods in a synopsis, and in Srimad Bhagavatam, the same codes are explained further. In a state where the codes of Krishna are followed, no one is unhappy. Where such codes are not followed, the first sign is that three legs of the representative of religions are cut off, and thereby all miseries follow. When Krishna was personally present, the code of Krishna was being followed without question. But in his absence, such code are present in the page of Srimad Bhagavatam for the guidance of blind persons who happen to be at the helm of all efforts. So this is very simple to understand. Bhagavatam is giving guidance. Just take guidance, follow it. Don't act whimsically, because there is always a tendency to do whatever we like. But we should not do what we like. We should do what God is telling, because that is going to help us. That is going to protect us, save us. But the tendency is so strong, it is very difficult. Here it is so clearly said, just follow. Just follow the codes of God which are given. Of course, I am also saying I have to follow all, but I want to follow, that's why I am speaking. So, O bull, you are offenseless and thoroughly honest. Therefore, I wish all good to you. Please tell me who is the perpetrator of these mutilations which blackened the reputation of son of Partha. The reputation of the region of Maharaj Ramachandra and the region of kings who followed in the footsteps of Maharaj Ramachandra, like the Pandavas and their descendants, are never to be forgotten, because in their kingdoms, offenseless and honest living beings were never in trouble. The bull and the cow are the symbols of most offenseless living beings because even the stool and urine of these animals are utilized to benefit human society. Actually, this is a very important what association we are taking. So why we praise cow, why we associate with cow? This is the reason because cow is so non-envious. Anything goes into cow, na, anything comes out of the cow remains pure because cow is non-envious. That's why the stool and urine of cow is also very pure. That is the point. This is the structure is made. Human beings know there is envy. The body is not pure, but cow's body is pure because it is non-envious. It's made only like that. So the descendant of the Partha, the king, like now people, what type of association they call reality shows, and they bring some stupid fellow, and he will a celebrity, and he speaks, and people want to become like him. They are trying to take association of such person, trying to become like him. But here in scriptures, the cows are glorified. Great acharyas, Vaishnavas, they are glorified because by hearing them, we are making them as the ideal, and we want to become like them. That's why we need to hear Bhagavatam regularly. The descendant of the son of Partha, like Maharaj Parikshit, were afraid of losing their reputation, but in the modern days, leaders are not even afraid of killing such offenseless animals. Herein lies the difference between the religion of those pious kings and the modern state ruled by irresponsible executive heads without knowledge of the courts of the Lord. Now the executive heads, na, more they become unpopular, they come in the news. So that is actually publicity for them. They say, my name should be there in the news, and what they did, that does not matter only for people because they do some nonsense and they become more and more their name come in the paper, and people forget what they did. They only remember the name, and next time they contest elections and people say, yeah, I know him, I know him. And then they become popular like that. This is the very unfortunate situation nowadays. And then says, whoever causes offenseless living beings to suffer must fear me anywhere and everywhere in the world. By curbing dishonest miscreants, one automatically benefits the offenseless. So, by rating dishonest miscreant flourish because of cowardly and impotent executive heads of the state. This is the present situation. They are impotent and cowardly. But when the executive heads are strong enough to curb all sorts of dishonest miscreants in any part of the state, certainly they cannot flourish. When the miscreants are punished in an exemplary manner, automatically all good fortune follows. As said before, it is a prime duty of the king or the executive head to give protection in all respects to the peaceful, offenseless citizens of the state. The devotees of the Lord are by nature peaceful and offenseless, and therefore it is a prime duty of the state to arrange to cover everyone to become a devotee of the Lord. Thus, automatically all citizens will be peaceful and offenseless. Then the only duty of king will be to curb the dishonest miscreants that will bring peace and harmony all over the world. So if the miscreants are killed, everything is so nice in the state. And then he says, any upstart. So this is what Parikshit Maharaj is making his statement. It's not out of pride. What Parikshit Maharaj says, any upstart, living being who commits offenses by torturing those who are offenseless shall be directly uprooted by me, even though he be denizens of heaven with armor and decorations. So it is not out of pride. Parikshit Maharaj is telling, I can kill even demigods also, because he is having confidence in his following of dharma. So that is actually giving him confidence to make this statement, not out of pride. Or I can even deal with demigods also. That means because I am following so strictly, dharma will protect me. The denizens of heavenly kingdom are called amaras or deathless due to their possessing a long span of life far greater than that of the human beings. In human beings who have only a maximum 100-year duration of life, a span of life spreading over hundreds of millions of years is certainly considered to be deathless. For example, from the Bhagavad Gita, we learn that of the Brahmaloka planet, the duration of one day is calculated to be 4,300,000 into 1,000 solar years. Similarly, in other heavenly planets, one day is calculated to be 6 months of this planet, and the inhabitants get a life of 100 million of their years. Therefore, it is all in all higher planets, since the span of life is far greater than that of human beings, the denizens are called deathless by imagination. Although as Actually, no one within the material world is there. Maharaj Parikshit challenged even such denizens of heaven if they torture the offenseless. This means that the state executive head must be as strong as Maharaj Parikshit so that he may be determined to punish the strongest offenders. It should be the principle of a state executive head, and the offenders of the code of God is always punished. And the supreme duty of the ruling king is to give all protection to the law-abiding persons and to chastise those who stray from the ordinance of scriptures in ordinary times when there is no emergency. In the scriptures, there is mention of apad dharma or occupational duties at times of extraordinary happening. It is said that sometimes the great sage Vishwamitra had to live on the flesh of a dog in some extraordinary dangerous position. In case of emergency, one may be allowed to live on the flesh of animals of all descriptions. But that does not mean that there should be regular slaughterhouses to feed the animal eater, and that this system should be encouraged by the state. No one should try to live on flesh in ordinary times simply for the sake of the palate. If anyone does so, the king or executive it should punish him for gross enjoyment. There are regular scriptural injunctions for different persons engaged in different occupational duties, and one who follows them is called Swadharmastha, a faithful in one's prescribed duties. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is advised that one should not give up his occupational prescribed duty, even if they are not always flawless. Such Swadharma might be violated in case of emergency. If one is forced by circumstances, but they cannot be violated in ordinary times. The state executive head is to see that such Swadharma is not changed by the followers, whatever it may be, and he should give all protection to the followers of Swadharma. The violator is subjected to punishment in terms of Shastra, and the duty of king is to see that everyone strictly follows his occupational duty as prescribed in the scriptures. So here Parikshit Maharaj's question, and then Dharma gives answer. This is very interesting, very important, because why this section is there in Bhagavatam to make us understand very important lesson. Of course, Balaram Shiktur was also sharing the same thing, that Tattena Kampasasa Mekshumana, and also to accept reality and to digest reality. Sometimes it is very painful to go through reality, because we always want to live with what I like, what I don't like. But we also have to accept reality. We also have to, and another important point here is the devotee should be non-envious. So no matter whatever happens, we should always forgive. Forgiveness is the first symptom, first quality of a Brahmana. So he starts, Brahmana means he forgives. The word Brahmana means he is forgiving, means if somebody is able to forgive very fast, that means he's a Brahmana. That's how we understand. Like the story we hear from Mahabharata, that when Ashtika goes to the king, and king he pleases him, the king actually he wanted the earrings of the queen, because the Guru Mata says, you give us a dakshina, bring the dakshina as earrings of the queen. He goes to the queen, and then the queen, the very details are there. And then while going, the king says, okay, I want to give you offer something, and he gives some food to eat, but there is some hair in it. So then he says, Arey, you gave me defiled food, so I will curse you. And the king becomes very upset. He said, I will also curse you. So both curse each other. And then the king sees that really there is something wrong in that food. And then he asks forgiveness. Arey, you forgive me. And no, please take back the curse. The Brahmana says, okay, I'll take back the curse. And he says, you also take back the curse. The king says, no, I cannot do it. Because I am a Kshatriya, I am still angry. So this is the point. So even though he's wrong, he did a mistake. But for a Brahmana to take back is very easy. But a Kshatriya cannot take back. Because that is, Brahmana means he can forgive. That is the first thing. So, of course, some Kshatriyas also forgive, like Yudhishthira Maharaj is Ajata Shatru. He does not have enemies. That's why Bhima and Draupadi, they are very upset with this. They say, you behave like a Brahmana. You are supposed to be a Kshatriya. And that's what happened. When Dhruva Maharaj and Narada Muni comes and says, you are a small boy. Why are you offended by your stepmother? And just go and play happy, be happy. And Dhruva says, see, I am a Kshatriya. If you want to help me, help me. Otherwise, let me go on my way. And then Narada says, wow, what a spirit of Kshatriya. Okay, I'll guide you. So Kshatriya cannot easily give up like that. But a Brahmana means is immediately forgiving. He said, okay, it's okay for me, I can forgive. So here this section is of when we know that this is a person who is giving me trouble or is torturing me or is offending me or whatever he did to me, I should know that it is not him. So immediately I can forgive. And that is actually very helpful. What is the advantage in forgiving? We can peacefully chant. When we chant, you will not get any disturbance. Otherwise, our mind will go for not forgiving. That means our mind already got polluted. It got contaminated. In contaminated mind, the holy name does not appear. Mind is pure, holy name appears. For that reason, we need to forgive like that. So, the personality of religion said, these words just spoken by you befit a person of the Pandava dynasty, captivated by the devotional qualities of the Pandavas. Even Lord Krishna, the personality of God, it performs duties as a messenger. So Parikshit Maharaj is glorified in relation to Krishna. This is the real glorification. Anytime devotees are glorified, they should be glorified in relation to Krishna. That is what is real glory, and they will also be happy. So Parikshit Maharaj is always glorified in relation to Pandavas and Krishna, and he feels very happy for it because he feels that is my real. Because he always feels that affection and connection to Krishna, which pleases. Independently glorifying him, he may appreciate, but that's not so much touching the heart. So here Prabhupada read, the assurance and challenges made by Maharaj Parikshit are never exaggeration of his real power. He's not actually is powerful, but still the Maharaj said that even the denizens of heaven could not escape his stringent government if they were violators of religious principles. He was not falsely proud. So this is the point. For a devotee of Lord is equally as powerful as Lord and sometimes more powerful by his grace. And any promise made by a devotee, though it may be ordinarily very difficult to fulfill, is properly executed by the grace of Lord. So he has faith in the Lord. That is the main thing. That's why he could make that statement. The Pandavas, by their unalloyed devotion and fully surrendered upon Lord, made it possible for the Lord to become a chariot driver or sometime their later messenger. Such duties executed by the Lord for his devotees are always very pleasing to the Lord because the Lord wants to render service to his unalloyed devotees whose life has no other engagement other than to serve the Lord with full love and devotion. Grandson, Maharaj Parikshit, grandson of Arjuna, the celebrated friendly servitor of the Lord, was a pure devotee of Lord like his grandfather, and therefore the Lord was always with him, even from the time when he was helplessly lying in the womb of his mother and was attacked by the blazing Brahmastra weapon of Ashwatthama. A devotee is always under the protection of Lord, and therefore the assurance of the protection of Maharaj Parikshit would never be without meaning. The personality of religion accepted this fact and thus thanked the king for his being true to his exalted position. So his assurance is not just words, Dharma also knows he can do it. We will take one more verse. O greatest among human beings, it is very difficult to ascertain the particular miscreant who has caused our suffering because we are bewildered by all different opinions of theoretical philosophers. So this is the first reason he gives. Who is the cause? He says, how can we know? Everybody tells some things. So Prabhupada says there are many theoretical philosophers in this world who put forward their own theories of cause and effect, especially about the cause of suffering and its effects on different living beings. Generally, there are six philosophers, sorry. Kannada, the author of Vaisheshik philosophy, Gautama, the author of logic, Patanjali, the author of mystic yoga, Kapila, the author of Sankhya philosophy, Gemini, the author of Karma Mimamsa, and Vyasadeva, the author of Vedanta Sutra. Although the bull, the personality of religion, the cow, the personality of earth know perfectly well that the personality of Kali was the direct cause of their suffering, still, as devotees of the Lord, they know well also that without the sanction of Lord, no one could inflict trouble upon them. So this is very important for us. As a devotee of Lord, we should know that nobody can touch us without Lord's sanction. Somebody coming and saying something wrong to us or troubling us or cheating us or anything that is happening, Krishna is doing through them. That's all. This is very, very clear here. According to Padma Purana, our present trouble is due to the fructification of seedling sins. But even those seedling sins are gradually faded away by execution of pure devotional service. Thus, even if devotees see the mischief mongers, they do not accuse them for suffering inflicted. So this is the point. Even if they see somebody is doing, they don't say, no, it is not. They take it for granted that the mischief monger is made to act in some indirect cause, and therefore they tolerate the suffering, thinking them to be God given in small doses. But otherwise, the suffering should have been greater. So they always think it is by Lord only. So they forgive. Maharaj Parikshit wanted to get a statement of accusation against the direct mischief mongers, but they declined to give it on the above mentioned ground. Speculative philosophers, however, do not recognize the sanction of the Lord. They try to find out the cause of suffering, are themselves bewildered, and thus suffering is their own in their own way, as will be described in the following verses. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, speculators are themselves bewildered, and thus they cannot know the ultimate cause of all causes is the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. So, uh, thank you very much. Any questions, comments? We'll end here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Tantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. I'll